Hello and welcome to Hopeful Conversations. I'm Vicky Montague, and today I'm joined by Murray Cluley. Now, Murray, like most of my podcast guests, is someone that I don't know very well. I know of Murray, and I know a little bit about his story. And when I heard the little tiny bit that I heard, I was very curious, and I had a sense that my listeners would be curious too. I was looking at your website, Murray, and obviously we'll give all the details of that at the end. But you were diagnosed, it says you were diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer in 2012. And lots of other issues from that initial diagnosis, lots of other diagnoses, I guess. And yet here you are. We're in 2023. That's a long time ago. And that in itself is a story.
Yeah.
I would love you. And I know it's a long time. You know, you were saying before we hit record, it's a long time ago. And I can appreciate it's quite hard to remember when we've been through something and almost it's kind of done.
Yes.
But at the same time, I know you have a passion for helping other people, I guess, see
exactly,
that there's some hope in a terminal cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I'm going to hand over to you, and I'd love to just hear, you know, what because you were in the Middle East, right?
That's right. I spent 15 years in the Middle East, so it was a wonderful life. I had a fantastic time there. Again, just say thanks for taking the time to speak to me. I appreciate it. And yeah, like you say, basically, I think I always said to myself, I always knew that cancer wouldn't get me, and I did say to myself and to my wife that if I ever came through their side, I would like to be able to pass on what I've learned and to benefit other people who might be in the same situation. So that was always a driver for me, you know. So that was good. Yeah. So yeah, long story short, we're living in the Middle East, dream job, dream lifestyle. Had 2 kids that were going to school, a boy and a girl. We had the full set. We were happy. Fantastic lifestyle, very privileged lifestyle. When you see poverty around different parts of the world and the difference between like the laborers and that earning money and people working in hotels and that. So had a nice villa with a swimming pool. We had access to beach clubs and all that through my company I was working for. So it was a fantastic lifestyle. Yeah, it really was. We were blessed, and we felt very lucky. Had 2 nice cars. My wife did little bits of jobs here and there. She did like she's very artistic, calligraphy and such like on the side, but not really a full-time job because most of her time was spent looking after the kids. So that was good. But it's amazing. You think one minute you've got everything and that you're very lucky, and then the next minute it all comes crashing down when you get a diagnosis such as I did.
Yeah. And how did that, because I don't know anything about kidney cancer. I put my hands up, I would have no idea what the symptoms or anything were. So can you just talk through a little bit about what made you go to the doctors in the first place? What was going on?
Yeah, well, there was no symptoms as such that I was aware of. The only thing was that I left work one day and I went to the toilet before getting into the car at the work, and I passed blood in my urine, and it was very dark and rusty. And I thought, wow, that's really not right. Again, didn't feel anything, didn't feel any pain or anything at that time. And I thought, okay, then I better speak to somebody about that or get that looked at. Got home, mentioned it to my wife, and I said, okay, we need to keep our eye on that. Then we had a situation again. I felt fine to the extent where my daughter wanted to go to the gym with me, so we went to the gymnasium and had a light workout. Came back home, and it was just after we had dinner. I was bent over double with the abdomen pain. I had like cramps in my abdomen. So I tried to lie down to see if it would subside. It wasn't subsiding. So I said to my wife, Mags, I said, look, you better take me to the hospital. This isn't right. This really isn't right. So she rushed me to hospital. I think on the way she had to pull over, and I was vomiting as well with the pain. got to the hospital. They told them everything. They took again urine tests there, and then what seemed like a lot of waiting around, as you do for these people to, because they're busy obviously in priorities and that. The doctor came in looking very solemn and very down and saying, well, it looks like you've got kidney cancer, renal cancer. And okay, massive shock, couldn't believe it. Thought, what the heck? How's this happening to me? You hear about it happening to other people, but you don't believe or think that it's going to happen to yourself, you know. So it was a real shake to the system, you know, a real awakener, real eye opener. And then carried on doing more tests. They did some like PET scans or whatever and that. So then we spoke to people, the specialist, the renal specialist, and he said, yeah, it's confirmed that you're basically, your left kidney is only about 2% functional, 98% non-functional.
Wow.
There's a massive tumor on it. I can't remember. Again, we've got so many different reports than that, and some conflicting information. There was, for some reason, I thought that they said at one point that the kidney was probably double the size that it should have been, but then when you look at some reports, it mentions there was maybe like a 3 or 4 inch tumor on it. So, but anyway, they said it wasn't functioning properly, basically. Yeah. So that was a bit of a concern. And then they also mentioned probably a little bit later on that it looked like there was some nodes on my lung. So they said there's a potential that it's gone secondary. So, but they said, don't worry about that now. Let's face the issue with your kidney, get that sorted out. So the kidney specialists, then they made the decision to refer me either to Germany or back to the UK, to the Royal Marsden, to have a radical nephrectomy, which is removal of the kidney. So this was in 2012, end of 2012. Went back to the UK after. The company I worked for were very good, and they paid. I was covered insurance-wise, luckily.
Right.
So they paid for all the consultations and the specialists and the operation and all that. The only other thing, the slight thing that happened, there was probably maybe a month or two gap between being diagnosed and having to go back to the UK for the surgery. And that was, again, your mind's full of things. You're worried about the situation. One of my colleagues told me to speak to another colleague of his at the same company who'd cured himself of stomach cancer. Malaysian guy, lovely Malaysian guy. And he spoke to me and he told me this amazing story that was almost unbelievable, that he cured himself from terminal stomach cancer. I think he had a surgery and had to remove part of the stomach or all the stomach, but he said that, and it went secondary to his lungs, but he cured it holistically, mainly through diet. So that obviously got my interest straight away. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting. And I think the biggest thing is it gives you that hope. So you think, you know, you've so much going through your head, and in hindsight, there was a lot going on in my life that was probably not conducive, and you know, like maybe like a bad quality of life, as in eating too much, eating the wrong things, unhealthy in some terms, stress at my work. We had a lot of had quite a lot of stress at my work. It's a very safety critical job, being an aircraft engineer. So this was also playing on my mind. I think everything built up. So when you get the diagnosis, it's like almost the last straw. You think, oh my goodness, what am I going to do here? So for this colleague of mine to tell me that he'd cured it, you know, and going from 1 minute thinking that I'm a dead man walking to, well, somebody else has done it. This is fantastic. Yep. There's maybe hope for me. And that was the, what would you say, sprinkle of dust to maybe think, okay, miracles do happen. So, so I got on board with him, and he went to the extent of telling me, look, Murray, I've known people with kidney cancer who cured it this, holistically, by looking at their diet, staying away from stress. You don't need to get the kidney removed. However, by that point, like I say, the company had paid for a lot of tests and specialists and that, and I was sort of taken, and I was committed. I mean, he told me this literally days before I was due to go back to London, and we took myself and my wife discussed it, and we took the point of view, well, let's have a two-pronged strategy here, two-pronged approach. That I've got 2 kidneys. I'm lucky I've got 2 kidneys. I can afford to lose one. A lot of people live very happily normal lives with only 1 kidney. So we'll do that, and I'll come back, and I'll go down the route of the holistic route as well. which I did generally, you know, I did do that. Had the surgery. Again, it was, would I say it's painful? Not really. It wasn't. Afterwards, also, there's a bit of pain there, but it wasn't too bad. I was a bit fragile, obviously. But within, you know, within weeks, I mean, I was back to normal, moving around and that, back to full fitness. Again, it was still on my mind about the secondary, about it going secondary and that. And they were also going to do more investigation into that, you know. And by that time, the oncologist in London, the Royal Marsden, did say that my outlook wasn't good, that it was basically terminal, stage 4 in the lungs. Again, it's sort of disbelief is there. So it was playing on my mind, and obviously there's the stigma, as everybody knows with cancer, big stigma. Whenever you tell people, they go, "Oh, you poor thing," and they write you off. They think that you had it, you know. They feel sorry for you, they empathize in that, but it's a real indication of how you tell your friends, you know, your good friends that stay with you and support you, and other, you know, some other people that can handle it, they don't want to deal with it, they don't want to keep in touch with you, or they don't make the effort to so much. So that was an eye-opener. Yeah, so it was playing on my mind a little bit. Again, the atmosphere in the house wasn't good because of the whole situation with my wife and the kids and that, you know, and I thought I need to get away from this. So I was starting to juice at this point. So I was starting to watch my diet, stay away. So the advice was basically stay away from any animal proteins, no meat, no sugar, no salt, completely salt-free as much as possible, which is very hard, you know. I'm a great lover of food. I also have been a great lover of food. I've also loved my food, so it was very hard to buckle right down and just to eat very cleanly. So I was doing that, but still it's in the back of my mind. Now, working in Dubai, I was very lucky to live in a very multi-cultured organization. I had lots of colleagues from different parts of the world. Some of the guys I worked with were Sri Lankan Buddhists, and I got introduced through one of them to their friend who was a Buddhist, who said that he had some kidney disease that he managed to control. And I'm not sure if he cured it at that time, but he definitely said he can control it with meditation. And I went around to meet him to get advice. And the first thing he said to my colleague was, right, you need to get Murray signed up to this 10-day Vipassana meditation course in Sri Lanka. How do you pronounce it? Anuradhapura. So within a week, so I was on an airplane. I booked leave, or I'd gone sick or whatever. I've told the company that I needed to do this. And I went to the north of Sri Lanka to this lovely retreat in the middle of the country, and yeah, so that was the big start. That was a big key to the start of my healing, because
so I was going to say at this stage you had been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer,
yeah,
as well. Okay.
Well, it's not lung cancer. It's still regarded as renal cancer, but it's in the lungs. It's secondary cancer,
right.
Cancer in the lungs. Yeah.
Right.
I met the guy who was basically running the retreat and that, and I mentioned to him about my position and that, and you know, and he said we can't guarantee anybody that will cure themselves from cancer by doing this, but it's a good start, and there's no reason why you can't cure it, basically, you know. So it was basically intensive meditation. So again, you'd be up at the crack of dawn. They would wake you up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You would go into the meditation hall. You would do, I can't remember if it was an hour or 2 hours of solid meditation. Then you'd have a break. Then you come back, do more, and then even they would give you a break back at lunchtime. And they would even say, right, when you're back in your room, guess what? Try and meditate. So, and it again, so going from doing nothing like that before to doing meditation, and it really taught me a lot about myself. You realize how hard it is just to try and blank your mind, free your mind, empty your mind, you know. Almost to the extent where they call it, you really discover that nutter in the attic that's talking to you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So it just gives you that time to.
Wow.
So I think, yeah. So the main philosophy is concentrate on your breathing, sit upright, lotus position, focus on your breathing and nothing else. Just focus on the air coming in and out of your nostrils. Any thoughts come in to your head, just try and forget about them, let them diminish, let them go. You know, you can't be strict with yourself and say, no, I can't do that. You've just got to let them come and go. And I think the philosophy is that basically any sort of regression that you might have. Disease, as we all probably know, tends to form in the body as damaged cells and regress cells in your body. So the idea with the meditation is that you get to a stage where you go deeper and deeper, you get in touch with these regress cells, and they can bubble up and they can basically release themselves and come up. A lot of people in Sri Lanka, the Buddhists, I think it's almost compulsory where they have to do this every few years or whatever. So there was guys within a few days alongside me who were basically like starting to cough uncontrollably and having to leave the room, and they were sounded like they were going outside, almost vomiting and being sick, getting all this stuff out. It was quite incredible, really. So that was it basically, and I really did feel the benefit, and I felt that I got a lot more headspace, by doing it. I mean, again, it wasn't easy. It's very difficult to learn to sit still. You have mentors there that tell you, okay, try and sit still as long as possible, but you get to the stage where the pain just takes over. Numbness in your legs, discomfort, starting to sit in the lotus position, and it's just overwhelming, actually. But again, that's all about the discipline. I think you have to go through the pain to get to the healing, and that's all part and parcel of it. So that was a big eye opener. So that started my journey into knowing the importance of controlling my mind. And it's all about, it's even more than controlling your mind. I watched one of your podcasts that you mentioned a very good thing, which I related to, that we all have this transistor radio in our head.
Yeah. And
we can choose to tune it out of it. We don't have to listen to it. We can tune out of it now and again. Okay. And it's very true. And I think it's more important to get in touch with your being, your physical being, instead of this mind that's chattering away to you all the time, So the mind, as we know, the mind can be a powerful thing. It can heal you. You can do fantastic things, but it can also destroy you.
Yeah.
So that's that. Yeah.
Wow. So this is amazing. And after that experience, then what happened? Presumably, you then went back to the doctors. And what was the kind of what was the diagnosis, if you like, at that point?
Okay, so back to Dubai, back to working again. Had maybe 2 or 3 months off. I went back to working. They put me on light duties initially. I was working in an area where there could be hazardous environment like dust and that, so they put me in like an office environment, which was good.
Right.
And then so the whole thing is with the meditation and staying away from stress and eating healthily, it puts you in a really good place. You start to think, you know what? There's nothing wrong with me. I feel fine. A lot of this is psychosomatic. I'm really good. So I then started to go away from the diet. Started to eat normally again. My downfall was probably bread, hummus. Being in the Middle East tonight, you get some lovely hummus out there, and not being as strict on the diet as I could have been, even to the extent where the guy that gave me the advice initially. So the first Christmas, I said to myself, you know what? It's Christmas. I'm going to have a beer. I'm going to have turkey. I'm going to have just for the one day. I'm going to be fine. And I mentioned this to my friend. He didn't say anything at the time, but when I told him that the cancer wasn't going away, he said to me, Murray, as soon as you told me that you weren't sticking to the diet, I knew that you weren't going to heal initially. So again, food for thought. I thought, yeah, okay, you better get back on it. So probably was having recurrent scans every couple of months, every month or two. The problem with that is that even if you're really good and you're sticking to things firmly, the cancer is definitely going to subside. It's going to slow down, which it did, but it can still grow, or there could still be new year. So I would go for a scan thinking, oh, good, this is going to be it. It's going to be gone. I'm going to be thumbs up on that, but no, it's still there. So then you started to get scanxiety, they call it. You basically start to worry about going back for the scan and finding more things and it not curing. So again, after getting a bit the hang of the meditation, staying away from stress, sticking to it firmly that I can do this, I said, I don't need a scan every month because it's just giving me too much stress. So I'll maybe do a scan every 3 or 4 months, which I did. Now, the other lucky thing for me at the time was because obviously I'd seen a oncologist at the Royal Marsden in London after my operation, and then as a follow-up, and he recommended oral chemotherapy. He said to me, even if you take the oral chemotherapy, you you're probably going to get you might only get 5 years lifespan out of it. And I was sort of partly of the attitude that, well, do I want to start taking chemotherapy and have the last few years of my life feeling crap and not enjoying life? And I think I even said to him, I would probably rather let it take its own course, let nature take its course, you know. But he would strongly recommend this. I would then say to him, I'm going to go back to Dubai and speak to an oncologist there to get a second opinion. Okay, fair enough. Do that. So the oncologist in Dubai would recommend different chemotherapy, stronger chemotherapy, whatever it may be. And then I would say, okay, thank you very much for that information. Let me have a think about it. And I'm going to get a second opinion from my oncologist back in the UK. So that gave me that space, because I think a lot of people, when they get into the whole cancer conveyor belt, they get pushed into doing this. You need to do this as soon as possible, ASAP. However, somebody made the point that these tumors, the disease was probably there for months, if not even years beforehand, growing slowly, you know. So why would you rush into it? Why would you take these poisonous, toxic chemicals that are going to destroy the cancer cells, but also destroy healthy tissue cells as well, you know? So again, that gave me that breathing space, that headspace. And so carried on. The cancer stabilized. So we were very pleased with that. And to the extent where my wife, during a meeting, when he sort of said that things hadn't grown too much or grown very slowly, my wife said, "Oh, great, this is great news." And it was like he looked at her as if, "Are you mad? This is still, you still got cancer, you know?" So I think you have to take everything that's given to you. Then so what happened was, maybe it was a good couple of years on and off the diet, basically a good sort of 2 or 3 years, not having a scan, then sort of avoiding scans, not going for follow-ups, basically working away quite healthily, appearing to be quite healthy. But then I started to get pain in my abdomen again. Went into the doctor for a checkup into casualty because the pain was there. Now, the other thing that they'd noticed on the scans previously was that I have a gallstone, like a large 1-inch diameter gallstone in my gallbladder. So I thought, is it that's been causing me trouble? Has that been causing me some pain and discomfort? And they basically did some tests and they said, well, look, no, wait, it's your cancer. Your cancer is not gone. It's got bigger. You've got tumors in your abdomen now, you know? So again, people could accuse me of not learning quickly, being slow on the uptake. And I thought, right, okay, if this is the case, this is my last chance. Well, it really is my last chance this time. I need to stick to the diet. So I just juiced for like 2 weeks straight. As many, again, thanks to the advice that I got from a colleague, natural juicing, which involved basically juicing apples, beetroot, kale, celery, 2 or 3 large juices in the morning, 2 or 3 large juices at night. If I was to take any food, I think I stayed away from food for the first couple of weeks. And again, within a week or two, the pain started to subside. So again, that was the evidence that you need to say, well, it works. You know, this actually works. Just stick to it and you'll be okay. So that was obviously the proof of the pudding, determined to stick to it. One thing that we always maintained was, and another thing living in the Middle East, was that we had access to fantastic holidays abroad. So we always went on fantastic, no expense spared holidays, the Far East, Bangkok, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand. So we hadn't done New Zealand. So we said in 2018 that we'd do New Zealand. And I was on a strict diet at this point. Went to New Zealand with my wife and children. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was fantastic. Holiday of a lifetime. As you probably guessed, New Zealand, one of the main things, especially in the South Island, is the activities. It was summer with us in Dubai, so it'd been winter there, but there wasn't much snow. So it was basically, oh no, there was snow, what I'm talking about. So we went skiing, we did mountain biking, a lot of walking, which I was enjoying at the time, and I felt fine, even although I lost probably lost about over 10 kilograms, 10, 15 kilograms. So I went for a heavy point of over 80 kilograms down to about 60 odd kilograms. So I was quite thin. at the end of the holiday, so after all these activities and enjoying ourselves, yeah, towards the end, I basically collapsed. I fainted at one point when I got up out of bed in the morning. Again, it was only sort of temporary. Stood up, thought, oh my goodness, what was that? That was a bit worrying, and didn't think any more of it. Just before we got on the plane to return back to Dubai, I felt horrible. I felt like fluish, feverish. And I remember the aircraft was taking a long time to taxi due to traffic issues and that. And I just had to put my seat straight back flat and just fall asleep. I fell asleep for like half an hour and then woke up in midair, basically. Got back to Dubai. My legs were starting to get numb with pain and like stiffer and stiffer, and my skin was becoming jaundiced. So within a couple of days of going back, went to the doctor, and she said, I do not like what I'm seeing in front of me. You need to get to the hospital. So went to the hospital, and they did all my blood tests, and they said that basically my blood levels were basically, all my levels were on their way down. They were getting lower and lower. I mean, I'm not medically minded, so I can't even remember the terminology of it, but they said that I think it looked like it was started in the kidney, like an kidney infection that was spreading to my liver, which was making me jaundiced. And I was basically, my bloods weren't good, to the extent where they put me into ICU. My breathing started to get a lot shallower. I was starting to struggle to breathe. Lying there in ICU with my wife and kids coming to visit me. Again, I was blissfully unaware of the seriousness of all. And I thought, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to be fine. I think it started to dawn on my wife, the severity, when the doctor said to her, if he becomes unconscious, what do you want to do? You want to put him life support, basically. You want to stick this tube down his throat to keep him alive. And that was the big thing for her. She was like devastated with that idea. And she said, well, of course I would have, I want to give him every chance that he can. And then I think also there was at one point I was coughing up blood, dark blood, like into a sick bag. So that wasn't a good sign either. Now, there's another aspect to my healing as well, which I owe a lot to my wife and her friend who are big into Reiki and shamanic healing. They were big into this before and during my illness, and they helped me a lot with sessions and all that. So they were doing these sessions in my room. Basically, it's like a meditation. It's like a Reiki session. Yeah. And they said at one point that something started to change all of a sudden. The atmosphere in the room changed. And then unbelievably, gradually, I started to basically get better. It was, I mean, there was nothing, it wasn't like an NDE, like a near-death experience as far as I was concerned or whatever. And just things started to turn around. My breathing got better. I started to become more conscious, more aware, more awake, to the extent where I was probably in, I think it was an ICU for a week, just over a week. And then they put me into a normal room. Again, I had to have some physiotherapy to get my strength back in my legs and that, which is because I've been lying in the bed for over a week. So I was weak in that respect. Oncologist came into the room once I got out of ICU and said, okay, Murray, you need to go home, rest best you can, recover. But obviously we need to get some scans. We need to do some scans for you. We need to have a look and see what's going on here because it looks like your cancer's only got worse. Again, didn't want to think about it. Just wanted to get home. Couldn't believe my luck. I was back at home recovering. My head was a mess. You're on all these chemicals. Yeah. So it took probably a few days for my head to clear. Then again, bit of anxiety going back for another scan. But at the same time, not as much as before. And I think my wife even said to me at some point, Murray, do you think you've still got cancer? And I said, you know what? No, I don't think I do. And the other thing as well is when I came out of ICU, I'd lost so much weight. I was down to about 63 kilograms. I said to myself, right, I can't afford to do this diet anymore. I'm going to be wasting away to nothing here. I need to eat normally. So I was having loads of eggs, omelets, and that. I love omelets. So again, I had a bit of a pain. I think, the gallbladder might have reacted a little bit to the fried omelets. A little bit of pain, but went for the scan. And then again, you're nervous about it, and then you have to go back 2 days later for them after they assess the scan and look at it. So went back, sort of thinking maybe the worst, or just to try to keep an open mind. The oncologist walked into the treatment room, looking all happy, and he said, I don't know what you're doing here, but keep on doing it, because you're basically, it looks like your cancer's in regression. There's areas in your lungs where there's no more nodules, there's no more tumors. There's some slight, I had some slight ones in I think on the abdomen, they'd all gone. There were some areas where there might be some little spots, but it looked like it was generally on its way out. And it was just like a massive sigh of relief. We could not believe it. We were crying. We were actually in tears at the time. And I think we knew that this was the start of the heat, that going away, And I think we even knew at that time, right? This is it now. Now we can maybe think about going back to the UK. I'd done 15 years in Dubai. Luckily and coincidentally, when you do 15 years with this company I was working with, you get staff travel. So that was like a good indicator to maybe to leave. The kids were going back to the UK for universities. The daughter was already in university. The son was going back. So it just felt like a nice time to come back to the UK and relocate. And we've had so much put in perspective. And we thought, yeah, I think this is the time to go back and do something useful, maybe to try and help people. So we bought a lovely place south of Glastonbury with a few acres, with the intention of setting up like a retreat, like a wellness retreat, or to basically do that. Yeah. So that again it was the start of a fantastic journey. That was 2019, summer 2019. Came back to the lovely British summer in the countryside. It was just felt amazing and the right thing to do. It was great. And again, probably part of the whole cancer thing is your situation you're in and the stress I was getting from work, and Mags having these messages from, we'll say, the universe. They were telling her he needs to leave his work. He cannot be that. There's too much of a blame culture. There's too much stress for him. He can't afford. He will not heal until he leaves there. So again, I was in denial about it. I said, I love my work. I'm good at my job. I get on well with everybody. I get on well with the people that work underneath me. I get on well with senior people. I can't see the problem, but without really maybe being blind to it, And again, you think, well, how can I go back to the UK? And I was only 50, I think about this now, 53, nowhere near retirement age. How am I going to survive? It would be good to go back and retire or semi-retire and that. But again, it was the knowingness that everything would be all right. The universe will look after us. Again, one of your recent podcasts with Angie, it was talking about money. And we had this knowledge that we'd be fine. We had a bit of savings from Dubai, obviously, which was going to help us for a couple of years, but we just knew everything would be okay. And I think it makes you realize that you don't even need a lot of money to survive. You could, you've got the state to help you, state benefit or whatever. We're lucky enough to have like some land where we could have a veggie bed and try and be self-sustainable as much as possible. And the thought didn't cross our mind. We weren't concerned. We didn't really care. We crossed that bridge when we came to it. So, and then we had the idea. So we built these cabins to stay in while the roof was being pulled off our house, because we bought a 1920s bungalow, needed a lot of renovation and extension. So we stayed in these cabins that we built while the building work was going on. I did most of it myself. We got some help of some builders. Again, fantastic time. I love working with my hands. I love creating things. So it was good. And then, so when we moved into the house, finally, we decided to Airbnb the cabins out to let them pay for themselves. And then we started to develop this, especially my wife was very keen on developing this retreat, which we've done. We've had a couple of clients. We thought that by word of mouth that it would probably take off in that, but it's not been like that. Again, as soon as you mention cancer, it's like the stigma. People, they stay away. They don't want to know. So yeah, we're just hoping to try and maybe get the word out there and to try and help people that are in the similar situation.
Wow, what a story, Murray.
Thank you.
Goodness me. And presumably after that awful sounding episode in ICU and the cancer kind of regressing, now what's the situation kind of now? Where do you know, or did you just stop getting scanned, or what's the
again, I was probably aware that because I've only got one kidney, that I was aware that I should probably go for checkups to get the levels, can't remember the word for it now, them levels checked out, whatever, and that, but because I was so busy with the house, building the house, I didn't really get round to it. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and you would not be able to get to a doctor for life nor money, you know, for anything. So it's something that I've not really done. I've had ultrasound to check they say that if it's going to recur, it will recur in the bed of the old kidney. I've had an ultrasound inspection which revealed nothing, that was clear. I'm probably aware that I at some point should get a PET scan just to give me the complete all clear. But as far as I'm concerned, Vicky, I don't have cancer.
No.
I don't feel any. I'm perfectly fit. I jog, I bicycle, I get out of breath, and I have no symptoms. So I'm confident and pretty sure that the cancer is not there. Again, some people might say, the cynical skeptics amongst other people that might want to come to the retreat, well, prove it, and then I think probably need that physical proof to say, there you go, you know. And it'll happen. It will happen eventually. I'll do it soon.
I think what I take from what you've shared is this knowing right from the beginning that you were going to be okay.
Yeah. On a different level. Yeah. It's like a different level. On one hand, the monkey mind was panicking, thinking, oh, this is not good. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't get me. Yeah. And that's all about, I suppose that's what all the meditation was about, getting rid of that upper level, the disease level, and getting down to my core being and getting there, getting to that point. Yeah.
And that's so beautiful, because it's, to me, in the work that I do, it's that connecting to that's where all the healing comes from. Like that's when we sit in that space, when you're talking about meditation or whatever, you know, like there's a space of calm, of peace, of, you know, when we sit in that, when we hang out there, healing can happen.
Completely.
But mostly we hang out up here.
Yes.
In the mind, and in all its fears and insecurities and all its craziness.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I just love I mean, to me, it just points to the power of that, the power of the mind, you know, that kind of knowing that you're going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than, oh my gosh, this is happening, this is going to happen, this could happen. You know, when we live in that, there's so that fear is just a contraction of the system, isn't it? Like there's no space for healing there.
Correct. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and you have to find that headspace.
Yes, I love the I love the fact that you knew that from the beginning.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I was going to say, because from that space, we know the next thing to do. And it's almost like everything that you've shared, you were really connected to that. Like you knew to do, you know, to have the operation, not take the chemo, to, you know, there was
the path was there.
To follow the diet, to go and do meditation, to
At the same time, I think one thing in hindsight that I realized quite quickly was that when I was diagnosed, that I had very little mind-body connection, that there was the stress of my life prevented that mind-body connection. And they say that your brain cells, your brain is not only in your head, it's in every cell in your body, isn't it? And I'm a firm believer of, if you're eating the right food to give your body the foundation to heal, and you've got that relaxed, that part, you can get to that relaxed point in your head where you have a belief that you'll be okay. When you go to bed at night, I think that's when the body heals itself. I think when you're lying sleeping and you've got all the right chemicals and foundation to heal, that's when the magic happens, to be honest with you. And again, if you're stressed and you're worried, you're not going to get that level of sleep, you know. So it's just getting to that stage.
And I've got one other curiosity about the diet. So you obviously, you know, you were on a very strict, you know, on and off, but eventually kind of went, actually, no, I need to do this now. Was that purely juicing, or was there food as well? It kind of introduced after a while.
So originally, the advice I got from my friend was eat healthily, eat cleanly, eat plant-based food, stay away from the sugar, the salt, the fat. You recommend the first thing you do in the morning was juice, the last thing you do at night was juice. and in between have as much plant-based food as possible. When you have to eliminate salt, it's very difficult because it's hard to, whenever you cook vegetables, potatoes, you want to add a bit of salt, don't you? So I had to reduce that right back. Again, white rice, maybe try and eat more like brown rice. Again, bread was a bit of a no-no, and I had a real, what's the word? It's not obsession, but I love my bread. And the other thing I found it very hard to do was drink tea without sugar. So what I did was I used honey. Now, I think the general consensus is that when you put tea and honey, you're losing the nutrients. It's being heated up, so it's losing its nutrients, and it maybe isn't even that much better than sugar, really. Maybe a little bit. And probably one thing I could have done better, I should just forget, not have the honey. Even to this day, I have honey in my tea. So yeah, that was it. But then I got to the stage where the tumors came back into my abdomen, and I said, right, I had to only juice. This is my last chance. If I don't do this, I'm gonna die. It's gonna get me juice for 2 weeks solid, and the results were there.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be quite miserable when you're just juicing and that. And then the other thing, we would get invited out for meals or whatever and that, and generally you have to decline because it's hard to resist. Now, what I would do was I would ask the chef for something very plain, vegetables, brown rice. But when you said to them, "Can you cook it without salt?" It's like they're not going to do that. They're not going to be able to do that. It's just not possible. So sometimes I would bring my own food with me, my own bits and bobs to eat to help. But yeah, it's not easy, and you become miserable. But then I think the other thing that happens is you have a bit of a reset, and then your taste buds reset, and then once you start to maybe add a little bit of fish, I started to add a bit of fish in later on because I was a big follower of Chris Beat Cancer, Chris Wark, who you're probably aware of, who's got his own channel, YouTube channel and website. So I started to follow his program about the eating and the juicing and the modules basically, which helped a great deal. Yeah. So just eat as much salad and that as possible. So yeah, so you go through the stage where you get a bit fed up or whatever and that, but you sort of pull through it, and then you start to realize, start to rekindle your love for food when you start to enjoy the tastes more because you've not had them for so long. It resets things, and you can start to enjoy natural taste again of food.
Sure.
Instead of hammering salt into it,
Yes. Yeah. And now, do you stay away from any particular foods, or what's your...
So basically now I'm in a situation where I find that I'm mainly vegetarian. I don't really hanker for meat at all. I can't remember the last time I had a steak. I'll only have maybe had a little bit of chicken only when there's nothing else available. But I really don't feel the need for meat at all. I have a bit of fish. I try to stick to mainly vegetarian food. And again, I have the odd beer, maybe sometimes a little bit too much. So I've got to pull my back. It's like something if I've been away for the weekend or I've been working, and I'm obviously a big thing for me as well was fasting. Fasting was a great thing to make me feel better. So every so often I'm aware that I've been eating and drinking a little bit too much or not been keeping my diet that clean. And something's telling me, right, Murray, you need to fast. You need to do a fast for the next day, 2-3 days. Well, a couple of days anyway. And just I'll have a juice in the morning, and then I'll maybe have a salad for the first day. Then the next day I'll just have water only. And I find that helps immensely as well. And again, it's all about getting away from it and getting that space and saying, right, listening to your body and saying you need to start cutting down. You need to start being a bit cleaner, because otherwise it's going to build up again. I think when you get older, your body can't process the same processed foods or fat and sugar and that.
And I think, sorry, I was going to say, in everything you've shared, there's a thread to me, which is a listening of what to do next, and that's unique to all of us. And what you got was what you got, and because of where you were in the world at the time, I guess you had access to, like you say, different cultures and different ideas, different suggestions, but
yes.
But it was all, you could have ignored all of that, but there was something that drew you to that. And I think anyone listening to this who's in you know, in a position of being diagnosed with cancer, I think it's so important just to really listen to yourself, to really connect into that space
Exactly.
that you've pointed to, that you can access through meditation.
Yes.
It may be through other ways for other people, you know, through yoga, through gardening, through cooking, or whatever, whenever it is that your mind's peaceful, but that's available to all of us to have that guidance for us. And I love, you know, that you say now that you know when you need to just take it easy, just fast, just eat more cleanly, and that comes through because you're tuned into that listening.
Yeah. And it's funny how you don't realize till you do it. It's not till you do it and you wake up with a clearer head.
Yeah.
But it's also, on the other hand, it's almost like we're in like a self-destruct mode where we do tend to maybe eat or drink too much, and you don't realize that it's happening until it's too late, you know. And then you need that kick or that feeling of illness to say, right, you know, I need to cut down again. Yeah.
And I guess that's when we get caught up in the mind again, you know, like, oh, go on, just have that chocolate bar. You really want it. You know, you want it. It'd be really nice. And we just, we're so used to listening to that. And I think the invitation, what I'm taking from this call is, again, to just really listen to what the body,
your body's telling you.
Yeah,
entirely. Exactly. Yeah. So I hope I can be of inspiration and hope to viewers out there, listeners.
Absolutely. And I would love to leave us with all of the details. You know, you mentioned that you're running retreats. How do people find out more about you? How do they get in touch with you? How do they find out about your retreats and all that kind of
So a lot of it's down to my wonderful wife, who's been paramount in my healing along the way, you know, with the sixth sense that she's got, and this ability to, you know, like I say, she just has Reiki clients, and she basically she tells them not to tell her anything about themselves. She can normally do sessions on them, and she'll tell them within like minutes, you know, what exactly is wrong with them physically, and then the mental or the holistic reason why that's there. So she's actually written a book of our journey. This is the cover to it. It's being edited at the moment. It's not being published. Kick the Terminal Cancer. So hopefully that we're going to get that published in the next couple of months.
Fabulous.
We're also we've got a Facebook page, again with the same name. I can't remember if it's Kicking the Terminal Little Cancer or Kick the Terminal Little Cancer. And
I will link to it anyway, so don't worry. That will be in the notes.
And a website as well, as you've seen yourself. So I'd be grateful if you could put that link. And again, we'd be more than happy to help people. You know, we don't want to make any money out of it, maybe a living, but you know, it's not about that. It's about helping people, basically. You know, if we can help one person, then the job's done. You know, I'll forever be in debt for the guy who led me in this direction. So I hope I can do the same for somebody else. We can do the same for somebody else.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I will put all the details in the show notes at the bottom of the YouTube video. So yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch, then they will be able to.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been amazing to hear your story, and I hope somebody takes something from it.
Me too. Thank you for listening to me go on for a while.
Oh no, it was fascinating.
I don't normally like to talk about myself, but I don't know what happened there.
It was amazing. Thank you.
And we'll stay in touch. Good luck with your venture, and we'll hopefully be in touch. I'll follow you as well.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right then. Take care. All the best.